or find a plant-based version of that so you don't have to sacrifice what you enjoy, right? For the sake of like trying to live better. Because the thing is, if you don't like what you're eating, you're not going to stick with it. And eventually you're going to go back to the other stuff. So hello and welcome to Health Coach in a Box. I'm your health coach, Amaya Internet, and I'm super excited and grateful that you are here today. Okay, so if you are thinking about transitioning to a plant-based diet, but you don't know where to start, this is definitely the video you want to tune into. Okay, but before we get started, if you like what you hear, if you've been here a couple times, and you're like, hey, I'm kind of vibing with her, I encourage you to think about subscribing so that we can grow this community and so that I can continue to grow this message. Like this podcast, this YouTube podcast is all about health and well-being from a holistic space, right? And being a whole healthy person. And with the attack on people's health these days, like it's so important, like more than ever, that we get this message out. So if you have a friend or a family member that you want to be on the same page as you and continue to grow like you're growing, share the knowledge. Okay, so let's hop in. Okay, so you are wanting to, shift to a plant-based diet, but right now you eat the meat, you eat the dairy, and you're like, I don't know where to start. This just sounds very, overwhelming and stressful. It's like, hey, I want to do better. I know that transitioning to a more plant-based whole foods diet will improve my health, will make me feel better in my body, will give me more energy, will help me to prevent, a lot of preventable chronic diseases, right? Like, this, but it's like in the day-to-day, it can be hard to make those changes, right? Especially this whole big lifestyle change. So this is what I'm going to really help you with today. Okay, I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to make it support you with like having tiny steps that you can do so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. Okay, so let's start with tip number one is to focus on adding to your plate instead of subtracting, right? So I tell this all the time to clients who are wanting to just even improve their diets and just eat more, fruits and vegetables, right? Think about what you can add to your plate. Sometimes it can be a little overwhelming when you're constantly thinking about, oh, I can't eat that, and I can't eat this, and I can't eat that, right? It's like, what do I eat, right? But when you start adding things in, it just helps you to feel more empowered and it could be less overwhelming, right? So say, for example, you are wanting to, eat more vegetables because that's a part of plant-based diet, right? So maybe you think about seeing how can you add a vegetable in to your breakfast, or for your lunch, you think about, okay, how can I add more whole foods, more plant-based whole foods to what it is I'm already eating? Because the thing is, when you start adding in all the good stuff, eventually you're not going to want the other stuff because you're getting full, you're feeling better, and then you just don't have the room. You're like, I don't need to eat this anymore, right? But think about what can you add to your plate? What can you add? Can you add some vegetables? Can you add some broccoli? Maybe a sweet potato, maybe some legumes, right? Like just think about what can you add to your plate, because that gives you the fuel you need, right, to really work on building that plant-based whole foods diet. Okay, so number one, don't think about subtracting, think about adding. Okay, step number two is explore plant-based versions of meals that you already love. Okay, so I love Alfredo. Okay, I love Alfredo. But as a plant-based whole food, with that kind of diet, when am I supposed to eat Alfredo? I found a plant-based version and I was so excited, right? So I don't even need the dairy version. I don't even think about the dairy version because I found a replacement for it, right? So think about some of your favorite meals, whether they're meals that you like to make at home or maybe meals that you like to eat out, right? And think about how can you make it plant-based, because there is a plant-based alternative to basically everything out there. Even if it's fried chicken. Okay. I know people have said like certain like mushrooms, if you put certain kind of flowers on them and do things like it reminds them of fried chicken, right? So there is a way, do research, go on our best friend Google and check with them, or, maybe ask around, try out different, maybe plant-based restaurants so you can get an idea of maybe like, oh, okay, they have a vegan Alfredo or they have a vegan pizza. Okay, how can I replicate this at home, right? So just think about how you can eat how you like in a way that is more plant-based. And this takes time. That's why I say it's not about making some huge drastic change, because the huge drastic changes are usually the ones you don't stick with. Now, I'm kind of a drastic person. So if you have my personality, that may work, but I know it doesn't work for the majority of people, right? So it's like, how can I make this work for me? What can I do? What small steps can I take to support me in adapting a plant-based whole foods diet? So it's not about the huge things. It's about the daily actions that you take, right? So thinking about your favorite meals can really be a game changer, because you don't have to sacrifice flavor. You don't have to sacrifice substance, right? Just because it's plant-based, there are so many alternatives nowadays. Okay. When I first like ventured out on a vegan diet way back in the day, there was nothing like to eat. There was like nothing. There were no options. When you went out, it was like it was just nothing, right? So you all have a lot, right? You have a big advantage, right? You can find a lot of options. There are a lot of, recipes online about how to make certain, vegan meals. So you have a lot at your fingertips, right? So be patient with yourself, give yourself time, give yourself space, and just, one meal at a time, one meal at a time. Okay. And then step number 3, and I think this is like the most important, is to start small. So you're wanting to overhaul your diet. You're wanting to move from the standard American diet, which is super sad, to a whole foods plant-based diet, right? That's a big change. It is a big change. So start small, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to eat every single meal forever plant-based, right? Maybe it's, you start with meatless Mondays. Maybe that whole day you eat nothing that comes from animals, right? The whole day. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. Maybe that's a little bit too much for you. So maybe you start with breakfast. You're like, hey, okay, what are some breakfast ideas that I can start to implement in my, during my week that is plant-based? So then you work on your breakfast. You find breakfast recipes, you get breakfast ideas, and then you feel really solid there. So maybe the next time you work on, breakfast, you work on dinners, right? You work on dinners like, hey, okay, what's a plant-based, dinner I can have? What do I like to eat? What can I make at home that's, healthy, plant-based, and completely meatless, and then you work on dinners, and then you're like, hey, okay, now I'm doing my dinners. I can save this and have some leftovers for my lunch, right? So now you have plant-based lunch, plant-based dinners, plant-based breakfasts, right? Then you start thinking about the snacks, the type of snacks you want to have, right? Type of drink. Like, it's a step-by-step process. You start small. Like I said, people try to do too much too soon, and then they don't see their goals through. And then when you don't see your goals through, then you start to begin to lack faith and trust in your ability to make changes, when you are perfectly capable of making changes. You just gotta slow pace yourself, right? Take it bit by bit, and then that helps you build your confidence. You're like, oh, okay, I did this, could do this too. Okay, I did breakfast. Okay, I could do dinner. I could do lunch. Like, you just start to build your confidence in yourself. But when you start to try to just do everything overnight, and then you don't see it through, and then you don't feel confident, and then you stop trying, and then you give up, right? So we are not about that life. Start small, right? So quick recap here. Okay, so if you wanted to make the shift to a plant-based diet from the SAD diet, okay, is 1, focus on addition. add. What can you add to your plate? We're not talking about taking away. We're not talking about subtracting. Just what can you add to your plate, right? Number 2 is to explore plant-based recipes, right, that you already like. So, you like Alfredo, you like pasta, you like, burgers, whatever. Find a plant-based version of that so you don't have to sacrifice what you enjoy, right, for the sake of like trying to live better. Because the thing is, if you don't like what you're eating, you're not going to stick with it. And eventually you're going to go back to the other stuff. So if you can start to build slowly and think about, okay, hey, this is my favorite. How can I make this plant-based? It's more sustainable because you are enjoying what you're eating. It's not a chore. It doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm giving this up. You feel like you are gaining more because you're getting to eat what you enjoy, but then also you are feeding your body life, right? So it's like, it's a win-win. Right. And then the last thing is to make sure you're starting small. We're not doing the big overhaul here. We are going to work on building momentum. We're working on building confidence in our abilities to create long-term change. Okay. So we're going to start small. Okay, so I hope you found that helpful. I hope you gained something valuable from this talk today. If you did, I encourage you to share it with a friend, a coworker, a family member who is wanting to, create healthier choices with their diet, right? This could be super beneficial for them. So don't just hold it for yourself. Share the wealth. And plus, that helps this station grow. I want to get the message out about health, about well-being from a holistic perspective, right? Like from a plant-based perspective, from a whole foods perspective. We need this more than ever in this day and age, because especially in America, like health is deteriorating. So the more that we can get these messages out there, the healthier that I'm hoping people will get, right? So I want to make this information accessible. A lot of times people just don't know what to do because they don't have the information. They don't understand. So that is my mission. That is my goal, is to inspire, empower, and guide people all over the world to just make healthier choices. Like, I got you. I got you. I got you. Okay, so that's all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for spending time with me. Until next time, peace.